Okay, I can't remember if I've already shown you this shirt, but I don't think I have. Look at this. Everyone loves a ginger. It's me. Hi. Welcome back to Christmas in the Middle, everybody. Today, our movie in the middle is Violent Night. Violent Night is the action comedy about a family getting robbed at gunpoint on Christmas Eve and their unexpected savior, Santa Claus? It stars David Harbour, John Leguizamo, Alex Hassell, and Beverly D'Angelo. Well, it is that time of the year, the trees are going up, the lights are being lit, Mariah Carey is thawed, and it is time to talk about everything Christmas, and I think that this movie is a very good way to start the Christmas season. Starting off with the highs, obviously, David Harbour as Santa. This was, I think, a very good pick for this specific iteration of Santa who is, you know, like fatherly, but in a very grumpy old man, I'm gonna beat your ass kind of way. He is so funny because he, at the beginning of this movie, just does not give a shit anymore. He just does his job, drinks, he lounges back on the sleigh while he's delivering all the presents, but he's still doing his job, and it's mostly because, he still believes a little bit, but he doesn't think anybody else believes in Christmas. But then, of course, when it comes to the robbing, he steps up and literally kills it. His action was so good because not only was it interesting, which I'll get to in a second about how the action goes, but the thing is, he's like the Mandalorian to me, where he is really good at what he does. Like, he can save people, he can win some of these fights, but he definitely does lose and takes a lot of hits sometimes during this movie as well. He's not perfect, and I think that makes him even more interesting, especially considering he is Santa Claus and has magical items at his fingertips. The thing about him is that in this one, I think the rules are a little bit different, where he himself is not exactly magical, but he's just like a regular person who can die. It's the belief of other people that keeps him alive and keeps that magic in him, and he also has magical tools at his disposal, so he uses those. But if he gets shot, like he's shot, like. But he's just hilarious because of if you've seen Stranger Things, you know that Hopper, especially in season 3, is quite aggressive, and I think it's David Harbour's thing now to be the person who yells with incredible pronunciation.
So unprofessional.
But on the other side of that, when he's not being grumpy or angry or violent, he develops this sort of relationship with a young child that's in the movie, and I have to be honest, like, I thought it was going to be a little cheesy or cliche at first, but it was quite wholesome, and it was really endearing by the end of the movie. I won't say how, because it's a really cool little plot device, but I did really, really like it. It kept the warmth in the movie, especially considering everything that was happening in all the action scenes. And speaking of the action scenes, they are simultaneously awesome and hilarious. The way the choreography is done is just so well done. There's so many things I've never seen before, and so many iterations of Christmas images and symbols and objects and things like that used violently, especially at the end. There's one thing that I sort of expected to happen, but not in that way. And like I said, he uses a lot of the magical items that he has as well, which makes for not only a very interesting fight, but just a very specialized, specific fight that could only be done in this movie. John Leguizamo as well, I don't think I've ever seen him in anything where he was this evil. I don't think I've ever actually seen him in anything where he was evil. I've really only ever seen him in The Happening, Ice Age, and The Menu that just came out this year. So he's played some interesting characters this year, but in this one he was definitely like the villain. He was the guy running the show on this robbery, and I've never seen him be just so aggressive, and honestly, he did a really good job. There are some things that I'll get to in a moment about his character and just some of the dialogue in general, but I'll get to that in a second. But I for his acting and for the being this what could have been a generic villain, I think he actually did a pretty good job because by definitely the middle of the movie I was like, okay, I'm actually scared of this guy. I also liked the plot as well because it references a bunch of other Christmas movies very intentionally, specifically Die Hard, Home Alone, and a little bit of Elf, but more so the first two. It very much takes some plot devices from Die Hard, and then there is a specific scene that is meta addressing Home Alone and sort of being Home Alone at the same time. We've definitely gotten to a point in movies where being meta is the thing to do. And I don't know how to feel about that. This is just a side note. I don't know how to feel because it is very fun, but at the same time, it's like, are you just referencing better movies to make your movie better? That's something I can talk about another time. But it still made for some great scenes in this movie because it just took them and just turned them on their head. Also, just the cinematography. I mentioned this with most movies, but this one, they had a really good amount of shots that I was like, ooh, that's really nice, with the lights in the back or like the decorations, even the visual effects of like the Santa dust or whatever. It was like it's really well done. I only really have one middle, and that's just that I wish there was more of the magic used, because that's just a personal thing. I just love magic, but I think it would have been cool to see like what other magical things he could do. Then again, that would have taken away from the idea that he is still like human and can get hurt and take a punch. I can understand why they didn't have too much of that because he only had so many things with him when he got stuck at this house. But it just would have been cool. Really, my only two lows are one. I mentioned this before, but the dialogue is a little bit cheesy in some spots. They use a lot of the Christmas puns and Christmas things that, like Santa Claus is coming to town. It's like, okay, very good. Okay, yeah, you did the thing. But, I can understand it's a Christmas movie, especially when it comes to those things. In a Christmas movie, I give it a pass because it's like, it's for fun. This happens with a lot of Christmas things, movies and or specials of already existing media that is, like a Christmas special of it, is that it gets to be a little cheesier, a little more wholesome, a little bit, the dialogue is very Christmas specific, and I give it a pass because it's like just a different time of year. So also, aside from Santa and the kid, and even honestly John Leguizamo's character, I didn't find any of the other characters that interesting or likable. They're not really supposed to be, but even like the main son, who's like the main character aside from Santa Claus, I thought he was okay. He's kind of a weenie, and that's sort of the whole point. And he is a nice guy, and he tries to be a good dad along with his ex-wife, or at least separated wife. I don't think they ever specifically mentioned it. That while that was nice, I just didn't think he was that interesting. Honestly, it was like they were trying to have the Knives Out family, except they're a little bit less interesting or likable. Even the ones in Knives Out that are supposed to be like the terrible people, because most of them are actually, I think all of them are terrible people. They're at least like likable in the sense of you have fun watching them on screen. This one, they definitely had fun moments. Don't get me wrong, they definitely had fun moments, but they're not as memorable. I think they weren't as interesting the whole time, but they did have some good moments. So, but just for being the majority of the cast, I thought they were okay. I will say I did think it was cool though that Beverly D'Angelo was in this. She was obviously the wife in Christmas Vacations, those movies, all of the vacation movies. And so that was pretty cool. That wasn't necessarily like a direct reference to another Christmas movie, but sort of an indirect one. So overall, Violent Night is a very specific kind of Christmas movie to start off the Christmas season with. But if you were into that kind of thing, go see it with your family, go see it with your friends. It is really, really fun. It's got some incredible action sequences, which is honestly what we're there for. It's got some very funny moments. David Harbour as Santa was a great choice. Santa is like James Bond or Doctor Who. You can just do infinite amount of iterations of him, and it's always going to be something different. But I think that this one was a really, really good one. It made for really funny moments, but some heartwarming moments as well, which obviously you want in a Christmas movie. It had heart, it had violence, it had blood, but most importantly, it had the Christmas spirit. I'm going to give Violent Night a 3 out of 4. Well, guys, let me know what you thought of Violent Night, and let me know what other Christmas shows or movies you are excited for coming up this month. There's not as many, I think, as in the last couple years that we've had, but we also have a bunch of other non-Christmas movies coming up as well, including The Whale, which I will be doing next week. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and Christmas right in the middle. I'll see you guys later.